Welcome back, fight friends, to another edition of the Mighty Shoutout Podcast. Westside. Look who it is, Mr. Ben Pride from Westside Muay Thai in the house. Ben, thanks for joining me, man.
No problem. I'm happy to be here.
First of all, I just want to say, before we get into capital punishment, by the way, if there's one bad thing I'd have to say about that promotion, just one. On my way home, I took a flight from Ottawa to Toronto, and then I had to get on a flight from Toronto to Calgary. Before that plane took off on Sunday to Calgary, I just, I'm like, oh, I got a little tickle in my throat. Bro, I have been deathly sick ever since.
You're not the only one, man.
Oh, bro, I don't get sick very often, man, and I cannot shake this one. Oh my God, it's
Listen,
got me.
man. I mean, Dan was sick 2 weeks leading up to that. Maddox was sick the day of. I mean, my gym has been the last month and a half, 2 months. Like we've been passing around something.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. And I think it's in Ottawa. So,
well, in that case,
you're not. Yeah.
All right, man. So I got to commentate your event last weekend, Capital Punishment in Ottawa, and that was your fourth go. And number one, I just want to say thank you very much, man. I'm always honored when people reach out. Like, it's my favorite thing to do. I'm just happy to do it and be part of it and be part of the excitement. And I just love being around that whole scene. But from your point of view, how was Capital Punishment number 4? And compared to all the rest, how was your night last Saturday?
Well, so technically, we ran, that's kind of my third, I guess, but really my second one running up myself.
Okay.
So we had one a long time ago. The first Capital Punishment was kind of co-promoted with another gym. And this was back in 2016, maybe. And that was like the previous owners that kind of ran it. And then the second one, I pretty much ran it, but it was with the previous owners. So we were kind of like 4 of us who kind of, and then we were going to keep going, but the pandemic happened. And it was similar. We focused on like production and making it, more about the fighters,
Right.
So, but it's when you're not making, it wasn't me, it wasn't my money. It wasn't, so it's, you don't really get 100% control. So,
Yep.
So the one,
or stress for that matter.
Yeah. Well, no, I pretty much had most of the stress, minus financially, I guess, but I guess not. But so the last one, Capital Punishment 3, I guess, was really the first one that I did myself, 100% my way. And, it went really well. It was, to be honest, it was really hard to get A-class matchups. So here you have to have 15 fights to go no gear. Right.
Okay.
But on the flip side, they kind of, because they don't promote pro, you can kind of, there's like a open class. You can have guys who fought pro on it before. So it's a bit of a weird, but anyway, so it was really hard for me.
I think they call it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they call it open class, but it's, it's anyway.
Yep.
But that being said, it was really hard I struggled to get, I only ended up with 3 A-class matchups, right? So it was, and then, I took every fighters. I gave everyone gas money, everyone, I paid travel. I did everything I could, hotels. I made sure I was organized ahead of the game, especially for like coaches, out of town guys. And, I guess, the word spread, because this event, I had no problem getting high level matchups.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I mean, we had like at 1.12, I think.
Yeah.
And we ended up with 9, which is, still, for, and 9 like high quality ones as well.
Yeah.
So, it was, I think it went, for me, all around, I think it went really well. I mean, as far as feedback goes, everyone I talked to, from fans to fighters to the DJ, you know what I mean? I mean, everyone thought it was, the most professionally run amateur event they've ever been to. The production was on point. I mean, for me, it's about, obviously you want to make some money, but, I make a point to do things not based on profits, right? So I kind of like go for people, that's why I asked you to come, right? You're passionate about what you do. You like what you do. So I want people like that at the event.
Gotcha.
Same with our sound and lighting guy. He loves what he does, and you can tell, what I mean? And that's why it's so good, right? And as I said, the last one with him was good, but this one was even better.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that the key, to success isn't, I mean, obviously you can't go in the negatives, but for me, the key is, to have people that, really, are stoked to take part in it and do it. Right.
Yeah, for sure. And it really showed. I've been out there. I think that was my 5th time out in Ontario now commentating, and it really showed, man. It was like from my point of view, that I had something to compare it to, or even just any of the other shows. Like it kind of just felt like a bit of a Muay Thai celebration instead of a fight card. Like, of course there's fighting, but just everybody was in a good mood. It was awesome. It was awesome to be part of that.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, and you know what's funny is that like I obviously I run a gym here, and we kind of the volunteers are all from Westside. It's not like I can pay everyone, right? But everyone, especially after the first one, after this one, they're so excited for the next one, and they're so excited to like get back to work. And I
Nice.
got people offering more help, and so it's always a good feeling when you try to make it. And I try to like honestly, the key for me running events, my whole idea was always to run an event that I would have been stoked to fight on. So
Yep.
everything I wanted as a fighter, I kind of wanted to do that. And this is kind of the way, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
when you fight on like places like Friday Night Fights, how cool it was back in the day, you know what I mean? The
Yep.
production, you know what I mean? So I kind
Yep.
of wanted to do like, my version with like kind of my outlook on what, with the walkout ramp and, the smoke machines and
That
you
was
know what I mean?
awesome.
I kind of wanted to do like, what I would have wanted, what I thought would have been real cool,
Yeah. Yeah.
and really put on, as I said, put on a show. And and it's funny because even the DJ, he does all the MMA shows, and I talked to him a couple of days ago, and just following up, seeing how things went for him, and who did a really good job, by the way. He had,
Yep.
his music was fantastic, but he actually asked me, he's like, "Would you do MMA shows?" And I was kind of like, "No." Like my I'm a Muay Thai guy. I always have been, and
Yep.
my goal above all is to promote top level Muay Thai fights and hopefully eventually pro.
Preach, buddy, preach.
Yeah.
Um, so speaking of which, shows you wanted to fight on in your gym and all that good stuff. So you're not just a guy who promotes shows, and you do coach, but you've also have a long, extensive background fighting and traveling and all that good stuff. For those who don't know, so I was first introduced to Ben because Ben fought my guy Chris McMillan in a
Yeah.
tight fight in a
Yeah.
8-man tournament. And by the way, the Journey Fight Series days around here, like they're like dragons, man. We talk about them. There's fables, man. We miss those days.
Oh
But
man, Smandych, one of the best in the business.
damn right, damn right.
He's one. For me, promoters are the best. Promoters are the guys who take care of the fighters the most, and usually they were fighters. And Trevor
Mm.
Smandych for me was one of the best.
Yeah, you bet. Canadian legend.
Oh
But
yeah.
in the meantime, let's talk about yourself. Where did how did you find Muay Thai and like getting into sort of like how you became interested in fighting, the first fight, and you obviously have a massive background traveling to Thailand. I'd love to hear it, man. Let's start with how you found Muay Thai.
Boy, well, it was kind of by accident. I
Oh,
never,
nice.
well, I was never really into fighting. To be honest, I never like, if you ask 18-year-old me, who what I'd be doing, when I was 25, even, I would never have said, Muay Thai, let alone fighting.
Sure.
I played a lot. I grew up on a small farm in the country, and I always worked hard. And we weren't super rich, so I kind of played a lot of different sports.
Mm,
I did like horseback riding, swimming, hockey, soccer, badminton, volleyball.
mm.
Pretty much anything you can, anything I could do really. And when I was in college, I played hockey, and then I got hurt my shoulder real bad, got surgery. So I kind of like in a dark time in college, but I was partying a lot, and I was kind of rehabbing that, and I kind of a buddy actually kind of dragged me out to at the college I was at, Algonquin College. We kind of had like, if you had a gym membership for like $50 a semester, they had like the Impact one, it was called. It
Mm.
was like
Okay.
boxing bags. They had like boxing classes, Muay Thai classes, and yoga or something.
There you
So I
go.
had a buddy
Hey,
who dragged
sorry to interrupt, man. What were you taking in college?
electrical engineering.
Oh, nice. Okay. Wow. Smarty pants.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't go that far. Yeah, I passed. Yeah, passed. But it's funny because when I graduated, there was a couple of decent job offers, and I wanted to fight once, so I kind of turned them down so I could do that, and then I lost my first one, and then
Sure.
couldn't go out and lost. Yeah.
How long was it between starting training and your first fight?
Well, so here's the thing. So a buddy dragged me out in college, right? And then I was kind of like, I wasn't really, I was, I'll try it out. And then, it was actually my coach who was running it, because my coach is actually Wayne. He was actually a prof at Algonquin as
Okay.
well. And he ironically, he was a prof of mechanical engineering. So,
Huh.
so anyway, for me, it was just like, I played a lot of competitive sports growing up, and it was just the hardest workout that I'd ever done.
Yep.
And like, I remember like looking outside and people walking by, and we were all doing like push-ups from our knees. We were so tired, you know what
All
I
right.
mean? I was kind of like, so I kind of did it casually twice a week for that semester. And then after that, I kind of stopped. I just, I partied, finished college. And then when I graduated, I kind of, randomly at Wayne, my coach, had reached out to me and said, we're back in town, and we have a gym, it was actually down the road from where I was. So, I kind of just went in, and I wanted to, I thought maybe I wanted to, compete once, it's check it off the list.
Yeah.
So I trained for about 3 months when I was 20, like mid 20s. I trained for 3 months, and then I got my 3 or 4 months, I can't remember. And then I got my first in-house in. It went really well. I fought a guy a little bigger than me, and I did really well. So I was like, all right, maybe I want to get a sanctioned fight and a real one, and
Mm.
then that was kind of going to be it. And then I got my ass kicked. I won round one, got real tired. I made some
Yep.
stupid decisions leading up to it. Didn't go my way. So then I kind of, I couldn't go out in the loss. And then I'm kind of not. I don't really remember what happened after that. But I went, with 3.5 years without losing, won a bunch of titles. And then, when I finally got to Calgary, Chris kind of put me back in my place.
I wouldn't go that far, man. That was really tight. That was a split decision fight, and
Yeah, for sure. But it
but
was, it was honestly for me, it wasn't. I mean, Chris was very. I mean, he'd been doing Muay Thai since before I even knew what it was. So,
sure, sure.
I wasn't. And he was obviously really skilled, so I wasn't embarrassed or anything.
Yep, no,
Obviously
of
you want to
course.
win and you hope, but
Well,
yeah,
sticking with that same fight, though, I'll tell you what that was. And you've been around long enough now to know that. Here's the example I like to use. When people are warming up and they do their 10 kicks or whatever it is, there's multiple kicks. If they're swinging their arm like a madman, I would tell my fighters they don't know what they're doing. Go beat them up. But I were watching you warm up, and there wasn't over rotation, and you could tell you knew Muay Thai. I'm like, oh, okay, this guy I think has an idea what he's doing. And then your stance and stuff. When you were in the ring, I really was like, okay, Ben knows Muay Thai. I could just tell by how you were moving. So anyway, that was something I really noticed about that fight. But before that, what year was it when you had your first fight?
my first, I think it was 2011.
Okay. And was it Westside Muay Thai at the time?
So we were Siam, Ottawa
Okay.
at first. We were like a branch off, and then they essentially, we were there for a couple of years, and then I guess we fought on some cards that Adjon Suchard didn't want us to, and then
Mm,
they kind of booted us out,
mm.
and then we kind of branded our own,
Yep.
and that's when we became Westside.
Nice,
For the
nice.
best, for the best, I think. We were kind of, unique style. We kind of did our own thing. So, and we
Yep.
didn't want to have limitations of where we could compete and that kind of stuff. So,
Yep. Understandable.
so yeah, we went our own way.
And speaking of having your own style and stuff, I've said it before, and I'll say it again on here. In my opinion, best clinch gym in the country.
Well, that's what kind of won me my first 15 fights. you
Okay,
know,
so where did that come from? That traditional style. I mean, if and you guys are quite traditional, which I love, by the way. Has it always been in there? Was that something that was brought in?
the real man behind it is my coach Wayne Palumbo.
Shout out to Wayne.
So it's a judo background.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, and then he used to, when he's older now, obviously. So when he was kind of training and competing, he was, there wasn't much of a scene around here. So he actually would go down to New York and train with Phil Nurse a bunch.
Oh,
And
nice. Okay.
Phil Nurse, do you know Phil Nurse is? He
You
was
sure do.
he was GSP's Muay Thai coach for a bit.
The what?
Yeah, and and Phil Nurse had a pretty tricky clinch, I think. Yeah, exactly. And so I think Wayne, really smart guy, and he just kind of, learned basics in the clinch, and kind of like, with his judo background, he kind of, kind of integrated it in. And, we had, because when I went to Thailand as well, like they tried to kind of fix my stance in the clinch early on. And then when they saw how effective I was, they kind of stopped, and they kind of, you know what I mean? They kind of, I had a lot of other things to fix, but the clinch wasn't really one of them.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah. So, honestly, Wayne is just, he was like good base, but a lot of good tricks, and like, foot, using his legs as long as his grips and his, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then he had his guy James, which was my second coach. So his first real student, and James was more of like a strong, stocky, shorter guy. Right. So
Oh yeah,
my
James,
style,
of course. Shout out to James. I know what you're talking about.
yeah. Yeah. So then, my style kind of became like a hybrid of both of them. You know what I mean? So
Mm,
I was like, a little more dynamic than James, but maybe not as strong, and maybe not as tricky as Wayne, but I kind of, you know what I mean? So
nice.
then I think I was kind of the best of both in a way. And then like after that, Graham Stewart came in, and he kind of, I trained. He was like one of my first students where I really, I trained him a lot. He was like, became from my student to like one of my training partners, right? And then he became, he accomplished even more than I did, right? So,
Mm,
and then same thing, his clinch, it was like, kind of the same thing, like a hybrid of me and James is almost, you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Sure.
And
Sure. Makes
then,
sense.
and then, we kind of, once I retired, I'd say, we kind of slipped in the clinch a little bit. There wasn't as much structure, but when when I took it over, I made sure that Graham was going to stick around. All my old training partners were going to stick around, and we kind of really put emphasis on what really made us successful back when we were fighting. Which is clinching and like
Yeah.
really focusing on the technical aspect of it as long as the conditioning aspect of it. And a lot of drilling. I'd say we probably do more clinch than most people do, hit
For sure.
pads.
Obviously.
You know what I
Clearly.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And honestly, since we've been back to it, we've been like really successful, and our clinch has stepped back up to where it was. All our guys are, and as you said, I believe we're the best clinchers in Canada for sure.
I agree.
I mean, and I think it's just going to get more and more evident as time goes on. So
Nice. And really I mean, I won't speak for Thailand, but I could pretty much speak for the rest of the planet, maybe including Thailand, but the clinch is starting to become a lost art in Muay Thai. With the rise of one championship
yeah.
and it's, and I can understand why from an outsider's point of view, but if you're not clinching, you're not doing Muay Thai.
Well, here's my thing is I kind of agree with you, but I think that if you do, like, listen, I was never a great boxer. You know what I mean? I was a good kicker, I suppose. I know I was doing, but you can, my fights are still pretty exciting. And, I think that if you do clinch well, it can be exciting.
Well, for
I
sure.
think fans can like it. And I think, I've proved it. I think my guys are proving it now. I mean, if you watch Maddox's fight, he was exciting. Owen's fight,
awesome.
he was exciting.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, I think if you use it properly, and if the refs let you use it properly, I think it's still a really valuable tool. And yeah, with the small gloves in one, and they kind of break it up a little faster, it's changing a little bit. But I think I think it's going to be around for a little while, especially if people kind of Muay Thai, it always adapts, right? So you just kind of adapt it and keep it exciting, and keep it and keep it effective. And I think it's going to I hope anyway. I hope it sticks around.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, man. When you see two guys, together like rams, it's kind of a pissing contest in the clinch, and it's really fun to watch. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Yep, I hear you. And you're thinking of capital punishment for like speaking of your guys in the clinch. From what I could see just from the outside, but when you have clinch conditioning, it's a little bit different, and so that you can push the pace. And so quite often what we saw from the clinch fights that your guys were in was they would clinch, it would be even, everything's fine, and then
Yeah, the thing is with clinching is, a lot of guys, especially guys who think they're good athletes and fit, they kind of neglect it because they think they're strong. But the thing is, the clinch in the first round is probably always gonna be, you can always kind of hang on for the first round.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but the longer it goes, the people who clinch more, it kind of, it starts to show. So you get to round 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, if which in my opinion we don't do in Ontario, but that's where we would really shine if we had 5 rounders, right? Yeah. Because and for me, like as I said, man, I mean, when I started, my striking sucked. I mean, I had a good straight left, a good left kick. I was a lefty, but I'll tell you, after me clinching someone up for 2 rounds, the third round, my striking would look way better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. What's your by the way, I noticed you skipped over this, and a lot of fighters do. On the way I won a title or 2 or whatever. Let me stroke you a bit here, buddy. What kind of titles you got?
Oh boy. Well, I have I have a couple promotion titles, like local. So I have, my first one would have been, I think, Throwdown in Gatineau was the title I got. And then I actually won the TBA's A class as a B class guy. I was 6-1, and
nice.
I actually beat Adam Edgerton and the semis, and then Kevin Henry, who both they had like 35 fights.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So and then I have one in Montreal. I have a USKA amateur title, and then I have a USKA Pro International title, which was my last fight against Justin Grechwich. And then I also won the WMO World Pro-Am belt in Thailand back in 2015.
Nice.
Or 2016.
There you
go.
So
I got a 5 or 6, I think.
Yeah, beauty. And from a guy, who's heavy in the scene, 5-7 years ago, Justin Gershwitz, that's a good scout, man.
Yeah. He actually tried to pull out too. Like he got offered a glory fight that same weekend. He tried to pull out because he had signed a contract. The commission didn't let him. So, and then he, what happened was he never heard of me, so he thought he was going to walk through me. And then I finished him. So
nice.
I made him quit.
Well yeah. Well done. Now Thailand, you spoke about Thailand quite a bit here. I'm just, can you let us know the experience, where you trained at in Thailand, how long you been out there, some couple stories out there?
Yeah, yeah. So I went. I have a good story actually of Thailand. So
Beauty.
well, first off, I went in 2016. So I went to fight in the world to WMOs.
Okay.
So I went to Team Canada, which was run by Chris Q.
Yep.
Chris
Shout out to
Q,
Chris Q.
yeah, one of the best in the
Old
business.
school.
Yeah, old school. Yeah, great guy. He always took good care of me in Thailand as well. So
Nice.
I was gonna go to Sing Patong back in the day, but Chris Q was, he was coach Team Canada. He was at Cal Red, so I decided to go there, and I trained there for 2 weeks, and then I won the WMOs, and that was
Nice.
after like a year and a half of being off from competing.
Oh, wow.
And then I was gonna leave, but then Crew Jang was there at the time. He's now at Super Bond Gym, I think.
Okay.
He moved out, but
Oh yeah,
Crew
yeah,
Jang, one of the best coaches
yeah.
and pad holders in the game, in my opinion, and he always took really good care of me. So I kind of stuck out there. The first time I stayed for 3.5 months, so I
Oh,
fought. I won the world. I think I fought 3 times, and then I fought another pro fight and won. And then I actually, I was supposed to fight a Max Muay Thai. This is what the funny story, kind of. I was supposed to fight a Max Muay Thai, and you make Thai, you'd make between $500 and $800 Canadian, there,
okay.
which is in Thailand pretty good, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
So I had that fight lined up, and I was supposed to have a warm up fight before,
Yeah.
at one of the Asiatic Theater, which is a smaller promotion, just to keep busy, and it got canceled. So I went out. This is maybe 4 weeks out of Max. So, we had a bunch of guys. It was someone's birthday from the gym. So we all went out, to Khao Road, had some drinks. I probably had like, I don't know, like 8 to 10 beers. Right.
Nice.
But the next day I get up at 6 o'clock, go for my run, train. I don't feel the greatest, but all right. And then after lunchtime training, I'm in my room, and Jane comes up and he says, you're fighting tonight. And I went, oh,
I knew you were going to say that.
okay. And then he goes, I go, well, who? Because, I was supposed to fight another foreigner, but he left the country. And he just goes, Thai, lots of experience. I go, oh, okay. so, all right. So then anyway, so, we go there, and we're on our way there. And of course, Jang gets in a fight with the taxi driver, because he I guess Jang looks like he's Japanese. So, but he tried to take us for like a couple detours to rack it
Hmm.
up, and then we weren't going to pay, and then anyway, so they almost got in a fight, and then we ended up just, me and a couple of the guys ended up paying the guy half of what we technically owed him, right? And kind of
Nice.
got us off,
Good.
right? So then I get there, and I'm fighting this young Thai, looks pretty good, real experienced, and so I'm winning the fight, like pretty, it's a good clean fight. And he actually, in the third round, the first like 30 seconds, I left kick him and walk into an elbow and break my orbital bone.
Oh,
And
brutal.
and then, yeah, so then I kind of like, I didn't know at the time, but I kind of ran in, stepped back, and everything's kind of shaking. Then I go, oh shit. And then I see blood on him, so I'm like, oh shit, again, I'm open.
Yeah.
And then, I can't really see out of it. So I'm like, oh, so then in my mind I'm losing. So, I kind of put, pedal to the metal, and I finish off, I get the win. And then I get paid what, $40.
Oh,
Oh yeah, $40. And then I get back to the gym. I remember going into my dorm, I blow my nose, and blood shoots out my eyeballs from underneath.
no. Oh
So
yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, okay. And then, so then, and Jang, he's kind of like, we should go to the hospital maybe. I was like, no, it's fine. You know what I mean? We'll take it easy. I got 4 weeks. So we're doing pads, and we kind of kept going. And he kept kind of telling me we should go get a check at the hospital. And all the Ties were like, no, it's only muscle. You're fine. You're fine. And I was kind of like, okay.
Don't want to be
My
a
was
pussy.
yeah, my eye was real black,
Oh, I
real
bet.
black.
Hey.
Yeah. And then, so one day we're doing pads, and my head kind of lightly taps off his shoulder, and my vision goes all kind of, shaky and blurry. So I was like, all right, we'll go to the hospital. So he's okay. So he takes me to the hospital, and then, I got to say the hospitals in Bangkok are phenomenal. I mean, it
Right.
was 45 minutes in, doctor, X-rays, results out, and so I had broken my orbital bone, and then the funniest part was, Jang was kind of like, yeah, it's broken. I was like, okay, and then the doctor comes back, and I was like, well, can I fight in 3 weeks? And yeah, you can fight. And I was like, what if I'm like, what if I get hit? And the doctor looks at me, and goes, keep your hands up, and then walks off.
Just don't get hit.
Yeah, Jan goes, you're not fighting. You're not fighting. And
Yeah, that was a terrible answer, doctor.
yeah, yeah, hands up. He said. And I was like, oh. Yeah. So yeah.
Man, I had a somewhat similar. I unfortunately not a fight, but I was out here dancing and ate an uppercut from my friend Wilkie Hara, and um, same thing. I'm sure most are the same. If you're sparring and I'm hurt, if I have to stop, I think of that as an 8 count, and so
Yep.
no matter, I never stop. I'd be pissed off at
Me
myself.
neither. Yeah.
Right. Well, I had to stop for a sec. I'm like, whoa. And I thought he punched my lip off. Like I couldn't feel this part of my lip. And so I'm like looking on the floor, like, what the hell? Anyway, I spar 3 more rounds. I know something's a little off. I go and blow my nose like a balloon. And
Yeah.
and I just kind of put it together like sinuses, blow my nose. There should be something there. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I better go to the hospital. Yeah, broken
Yeah.
orbital.
Yeah. I mean, they tried to give me plastic surgery in Thailand, and I was like, they're like plastic surgery we fix. I was like, no.
That's okay.
We're good. Yeah, we're okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I still, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, I still don't have feeling in my lip from that. So thanks, Will.
Yeah, there you go.
Good souvenir.
Shout out to Will. Yeah.
Yeah. KU Samrit, hey, that's a gym with a reputation in Thailand.
Yeah. I'm actually, uh, 4 of my guys going there at the end of the month.
Yeah, I heard them talking about that. Yeah.
Maddox is going, Noah's going, Kira's going, and Nick's actually going as well. So
Hey, and by the way, I want to give a quick shout out to Nick. He picked me up at the airport. I mean, man, the guy even walked down the sidewalk, letting me watch his phone so we could watch one championship. But that guy several times sent me messages. Airbnb's okay. Do you need anything? Everybody picking you up? Like, I want to give a shout out to Nick, man. He really looked after me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Nick's a beauty, man. He's one of my main guys. He's he works a full-time job too. I luckily got him before he got him back before he started his job. So he was when I took over, he was a big help, get things going, coaching, helping out. And whenever I run events, he's always super keen on picking people up and making sure everyone's really taken care of. So he's exactly.
Truly appreciate it. Now you mentioned before going to Thailand for, I think you said 3.5 months, that you took a 1.5 years off. So what was the plan to like, listen, I'm gonna put all my eggs in this basket and I'm doing it, or like, how did you go from a 1.5 years? Like, were you planning on retiring then, or was this a comeback? How did that happen?
So what happened is I weirdly developed asthma. Not exactly sure how, and then I kind of didn't, and I kind of like in like a week, I went from being in, I remember I was on a training road trip in Toronto where I was going to a bunch of gyms, and I thought I was in good shape, and all of a sudden, I was hacking for air. And so I kind of, gave myself, maybe it was less than a 1.5 years, but maybe it was a year. I can't remember, but it was long enough where I was going to retire. And then I kind of I told myself, I'm just going to go to Thailand. So because I hadn't fought pro yet. Right. So I was like, I want to at least get a pro fight in. So I thought I'd go to Thailand and see how it goes down there. And if if it goes well, I'll keep going. And if not, I'll retire, after that. And then, I kind of, got used to it, and, it was it took about like 6 to 8 months of getting used to, being an asthmatic and having to, manage that, which, added a whole dynamic to training. Right. But, I kind of got through it. And, ever since then, I've been an asthmatic. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm asthmatic, so I'm gonna go to Bangkok where the air is nice and fresh and clean and
yeah. Not my smartest moment, probably, but it worked out.
Yeah, apparently. How many times have you been since?
So then I went back once after that. Okay. I was actually supposed to go back to fight for a PMF title.
Oh yeah.
But then I had issues with my right shoulder, so I got surgery on my right shoulder when I was like 18. And I'd have issues with it every year, and then twice a year, and then it was kind of more and more frequent. And then so I was injured, but I was taking my guy Graham Stewart, right? Mm-hmm. So I pretty much just went down, took him, brought him to Cal Summerit, and then I stayed for 2 months, and he stayed for like 3, I think, that time. And then he fought a couple of times, and then he came back, and he actually ended up going back and staying for a year. And he actually won the Max Muay Thai belt when he was down as well.
Nice.
So, So he ended up. I went for a total probably of like 5.5, 6 months. Yep. But he ended up going, as I said, 3 months that time. Then he stayed for a year. The next time, brought his wife down now, and and he fought a bunch of times, won some titles, defended his title, and then retired.
Well, there you go. Hey, Is that like a camp, or like do you guys do like a yearly trip or something? Like, hey, we're all going as a team, or is that's sort of like home for you guys? Is that like a home gym, in Thailand?
That's kind of where I stand. Listen, I trained there, and then once I broke my orbital bone, I kind of went. I went to Hong Kong
Yep.
because I mean mainly because I had no money, and Melissa Riom from Calgary actually she was
Yeah.
staying there,
Shout out to
and
Melissa.
she had fought in the world, so she kind of offered to kind of help me out with a place to stay, and then I kind of pay her back once I got back to
Right.
to Ottawa, right? So, um, but for me, I mean, there's great gyms all over Thailand, but a lot of the good gyms, if there's a lot of good guys, they don't pay attention to you as much,
Mhm.
and a lot of it's kind of do your own thing, like with your pads. I mean, Cal Samrit is like really, really brutal. Like they stay on top of you.
Which is
It's
which
like
is by the way, what I mean by reputation when I said that gym's got a reputation being a hard
yeah.
nosed gym.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's no fucking listen, man. I was in phenomenal shape. I've always been, I've always overtrained. I've always, been really big on, and I went there, and that's kind of why I liked it, to be
Huh.
honest, because they stayed on you, especially, shout out to Jang and Ong back when I was there, but they kept you, they kept you, and they keep you for longer and longer and longer, and yeah, it was, I think, and this again, I've only trained at two gyms down there, but from what I
Mhm.
hear, it's one of the hardest hardest gyms to train at.
Sure. I've consistently
Yeah,
heard that.
yeah, they keep on you, man. It's like structured. There's no skipping. If you want to fight, you know what I mean.
Yep.
And if you skip training sessions, they just don't get you fights, or they get you bad fights, right? So
Yep.
it's either you do what they say or you kind of get screwed, right? So,
That's
and that's kind of what
probably how it should
And we have
go.
what, yeah, and I got some young guys that are maybe a little bit on the lazier side. So I don't want them going somewhere that they kind of let that fly. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm all about hard work. I'm hard on my guys, so I want them to go to a gym that they're going to be equally, if not harder on them, right?
Nice. Nice. Speaking of Westside Muay Thai, how many fighters are out of that gym now?
Oh boy, like active.
Yeah.
I mean, I have. I mean, let's go by A class. I got about 4 or 5 A class guys right now.
Nice.
Active A class guys. I got four, but then Owen's going to be A class by the end of the year. He's my just turned 19 actually. He's one of my younger up and comers.
Nice.
But all in all together, we probably have like 10 maybe.
Nice, man.
10,
Nice.
15, somewhere between that. Yeah, people a little more casuals to like, more serious.
Yeah.
But like myself, I focus on like my main five pretty much, right? So,
Yeah.
my A
Okay.
class and my high level B class guys, and then we kind of have like, as I said, we have a lot of coaches, and the A class fighters help out with the lower. We kind of have a kind of pyramid kind of where I help with them, they help out with the lower guys, and we kind
Yep.
of build up that way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's a good team way to do it. I
Yeah,
mean, one
yeah,
guy
and I
can't
mean,
steer the ship the entire time.
no, and listen, man, West Side's nothing if it's just me. Like I got to say that first. I mean, Graham Stewart's a huge help. I mean, James Mahoney, my
Yep.
original coach, right? He still comes around twice a week when he can.
Nice.
Guys like Minad, guys like Nick. I
Yep.
mean, the reason I think we're the best around here anyway is because I mean we have so much depth in our coaching staff. And again,
Mm.
if it was just me, man, I'd have what, one or two good guys maybe, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
and I have holes in my game that Minad, Graham, James, Phil,
Can
right?
fill. Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I wasn't a perfect fighter. I had actually a very like, simple kind of basic style, right?
Yep.
That kind of built around my holes, but I have other guys to kind of fill those, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's why we're growing. That's why, in my opinion, I think we're going to be one of the top gyms around.
Nice. We already are, man. As far as I'm concerned. Now, so do you teach classes, or like you said, you just kind of work with the fighters?
Yeah, well, we do like yeah, listen, I'll teach. First of all, I teach. We have 3 classes at lunch,
Okay. Uh-huh.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and they're open to anyone, and I teach those noon
Nice.
till 1. I teach all those classes, and then as far as like I'll fill in for rec classes here and there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Whenever I have to, obviously. But I teach. So we have all our fighters classes are from 8 to 9:30 p.m. at night.
Okay.
Okay,
That's a
so
late
I
night.
teach. Yeah, so I teach. Yeah, if you want to be a fighter, you got to make some
That's
sacrifices.
it, man. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I teach Wednesdays, which is more like just a full Muay Thai technical class. And we honestly, I get them started at 7 o'clock for the most part. We get them warmed up and clinching before class usually, and then by 8 o'clock the official class starts. And I teach Wednesdays, and then Thursdays I run it too, and it's a sparring night. So
Hmm.
I put them through a really hard workout, then we make them clinch and
Nice.
spar. And again,
Yeah.
we make sure we get clinching every day, sometimes twice.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
What's your thoughts on coming from so coming from Alberta, I'm used to like B level fighters fighting 5 2-minute rounds, or I'm sorry, B class, A class, 5 2s or 5 3s. That there's no 5 rounds in Ontario, right?
It's because they're yeah. I again, I think we would do better in 5 rounds personally. Most of my
Sure,
guys,
sure,
but I guess because I think look, I'm not big into politics. I try to kind of stay out of the politics, but
sure. I hear you, man.
my understanding is that they kind of go and check with what IFMA does,
Mm,
and because IFMA only does 3 minute 3 rounds, and
right.
again, it's tournament, so in my opinion, it's kind of like I think I like 5 rounds. You know, I'm just
Sure.
saying, right?
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I understand for fans, maybe 3 rounds is better.
Yep.
It's quicker for events, which I do appreciate. When
Yep.
you're a promoter, it's kind of nicer to be honest.
Yep. For sure.
But my understanding is that because IFMA they do for A class they do 3 minute rounds. That's kind of why they stuck to that structure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get it. Yeah, and even for me, I'm just used to the 5 rounds. I could say that it's noticeable that they can't set in the fight. You basically
Yeah,
got to win round one.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I tell my guys, there's not really you're feeling it out round. You got to get ahead.
Yeah.
I try to, you got to get ahead. And if you're under the weather, if you're injured, you kind of got to get ahead and then kind of pace yourself, but ahead, and
Yeah.
then see how you feel and go from there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if yeah, I mean, for me, if you get knocked down in round one, and you win round two and three, it's a draw. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
kind of, it's kind of, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can
For sure.
dominate, but my thing is, you can't control, the commission, the rule set. You
Yep.
can't control the ref. So, you kind of got to adapt while you're fighting, and
Yeah.
win or lose, that's kind of how it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I'm not talking smack on a 3 round, 5 round
No,
or
no,
anything.
no.
Just the differences is all. Um, Ryan Timothy from Sherwood Park, one of our teammates here, Derek Jolivet, Tim Lowe's coach, he
Yeah.
had some crazy stat from IFMA that it was like, I don't know the number, but it was well over 50% that whoever won round one, round the fight at
One.
the IFMAs.
For sure.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, because then you just got to squeeze out round two,
that's
and
right.
then so you can sprint round one and two. You can get, for the most part, whooped round three,
Yeah,
and you can still win the fight.
yeah,
And again, and then and having a 10-8, from my understanding, with having a 10-8 with no knockdowns was nearly impossible until our event, apparently.
I don't want to talk about that, man. I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
So me as the commentary. By the way, that was some scrap.
Yeah.
Daniel Zhu versus Anthony Palumbo for the Muay Thai Ontario, right? National title.
Yep. No. It was Muay Thai Canada.
I'm
So
sorry.
that's Muay Thai Canada.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm sorry. Muay Thai Canada. No, Anthony Palumbo. So it's a 3 round fight again for a title, which is new. I'm not used to that.
Yeah. For me too.
So hold on. I'm going to forget this. I got to ask now. Just out of curiosity, did you guys on purpose go knowing that Alberta at that point fights 5 rounds? Did you guys make a point and really jumping on those guys, the Alberta guys, round one?
Well, I mean, not really.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
okay. So here's the thing: is that both my guys were sick or had been sick. So, and because Maddox kind of took it easy round one.
Yeah,
He
yeah, a little bit.
when he got in the clinch, he kind of he was looking at me. He was kind of making sure he was doing okay. He was very defensive.
Huh.
You know what I mean? For Maddox, I wanted him to again get ahead round one, but I wanted him to pace out and see how he was feeling after.
Right. How he is reacting to all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had been fighting at 165. This was at 160, so he hadn't cut down to 160 on the same day. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a lot of new, and then he wasn't feeling good that morning. So it could have been because of the weight cut. It could have been but there was, as I said, man, you got sick right after, so there was stuff going around here.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Maddox.
yeah, and to be honest, Dan, I that's not exactly what I wanted him to do. I wanted him to he kind of, Dan wanted to finish Palumbo, and that's what he had that in his head, and there's nothing I could have said to change that, and that's kind of what he was. Yeah,
he certainly fought like it, man.
I know, and Dan puts on exciting fights, but when you do that, you risk that if you don't get that finish, you're gonna.
It's a little bit of a lottery, like when you're fighting that stuff.
Yeah, especially against a high level guy like Anthony, man.
Man, Anthony looked big out there.
Yeah, but he's good, man. He's experienced. You know what I mean? He's he's been in tough situations before. He's been dropped before. He's been, you know what I mean? So Dan hits hard and stuff. Dan's one of the most skilled guys I've ever coached. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's but when you sometimes if you don't fight smart.
yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know what we're talking about, forget the title for a sec. 3 rounds. Anthony Palumbo. Let me just speak from my idiot brain here. Anthony Palumbo gets knocked down in round one. if it goes to
Yep.
a decision, the best Anthony Palumbo can do is a draw.
Yep.
And then at the end of the fight, we hear Anthony Palumbo's the new champion.
Yep.
So I specifically asked the judges because I was like, I'm a little confused here. And like you just mentioned, I asked the officials, how did that happen? And they said that they gave a 10-8 round to the last round to
Yeah.
Anthony Palumbo.
Yeah.
I hate to do this as a coach. How do you feel about that?
Listen, so I'm just going to tell you that the way I look at fighting and the way fights are scored here, like I don't agree, first of all.
Yep.
So, I mean, I told Anthony before the decision, when he came to my corner after the fight, when I gave him water, I told him, listen, man, if Dan gets this win, I give you a rematch 100% right away.
Yep.
I was like, I truly think that if you finish like he did and one person's really fading away, I think the fight should go to the person who's finishing stronger.
Yep, I agree.
Especially if you know that, like, if the fight keeps going, that fourth, fifth round, you know who's taking over. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That being said, you train, you fight a fight like it's 3 rounds and it's scored round by round. So that changes how Dan fights.
Yep.
I mean, for me, I don't understand how they gave it to Anthony. I'm kind of happy they did because I thought in a fight, he wins the fight. And I think that it looked bad on me promoting the event and Dan having such a poor third round winning it, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And so that's why I didn't contest it. I didn't bitch about it. You know what I mean? But Dan's still my guy. And, I've seen landslide rounds that, Dan was still landing some stuff on him. He got rocked. He fell a bunch of times. But I want to say that MTO don't count sweeps at all. That's their rules. Sweeps do not count for any points. Okay. So Dan got swept 4 or 5 times, but that shouldn't count. So you take away all that. Dan was still keeping him. Dan still landed some shots on him. He wasn't like not doing anything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He got rocked a couple of times, but he kept it together. So for me, I'm not disappointed with the decision.
Sure.
I think that Anthony deserves the win, especially by the end. But if you want to go by how MTO should score it, that's at best a draw for Anthony.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So, but just by the scoring, again,
of course,
I think,
I understand. Yeah.
I think the end should be weighed more. And I think Anthony did a good job. And I think he showed, his experience and why he's, one of the best in Canada. So,
yeah, for sure.
I can't be disappointed. And again, I think it would look bad on me if Dan won that decision with that round. So,
sure.
So kind of, but again, I offered him a rematch before the decision was even made. I just want to make that clear. I thought he looked great. So
yeah, and that was a good fight, man. I mean, big fan of both guys. Like those are the guys you want fighting for A-class titles in Canada, man. Those are good people.
I made sure for the whole card, I tried to make sure the matchups are good matchups. I don't want anyone getting, of course you want finishes and stuff, but I want good matches. I don't want, easy matchups, including for my guys, man. I always try to get my guys tough matchups. So
yeah. Well, and I'm as a fight fan, like, and maybe I've just been doing it so long now. Like, I win and a loss, but really, like as a fan, I just want to see a good fight. Maybe my guy wins, maybe he doesn't, but if it's a good fight, I'm in. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. How was Dan? Now, Dan was having a rough go after that fight. Was that just exhaustion?
Yeah, he was fine.
Yeah, okay,
we took him to the hospital just to make sure, but they released him, and he was he's been training all week actually.
Nice. Well, good to hear, man. I'm glad there was no problem. Awesome, man. What was your favorite fight of that night?
Well, I mean, from a coaching point of view, Maddox's was pretty good. I mean, he got that finish. He fought, but Damien beat Dan 2 years ago, right? So for me, that
right,
yeah, dude. So for me, Maddox to come in and stop him, and on the stream, I think it looked closer than it was, but from the corner, I mean, Maddox was especially before it got finished, was putting it on him, and there was I thought but I think from like a fan's point of view, like as far as I think CM against Kevin Patno was a burn.
Yeah, man, that was how are those guys not lumped up everywhere? It was amazing.
Well, Kevin was.
Oh yeah, that's
Kevin
true.
Happened.
That's true.
But that for me, that was that was a good one. And the first one after the intermission, Zach from Boss against Daniel Gold from Savage.
Yep. Good fight.
Also a barn burner. So those two were probably. I mean, Kevin and Sam's was good because it was just like in the pocket. Hands against elbows. I don't know. I thought that was,
that was
probably one of the. if I would have awarded a fight of the night, it would probably have been that one.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that was fun, man. When's the next capital city happening?
We're doing it
I'm
November
sorry,
1st.
capital punishment. Sorry.
Yeah, we're going November 1st. I mean,
Okay,
the cards. I've already gotten a bunch of fight lists. You know,
nice,
I got guys from Weapons 9 coming in from New York City. I
nice.
got I got you know, I'm hoping to bring in guys from out west as well. You know,
Yeah, beauty.
I've been in talks with a few, and we're hoping to put on the same thing. Man, I'd like to get between 8 and 12 A class fights and a couple titles, and as I said, it's already the word's already spread, and we've already kind of reached out to people who we want on, and it's looking like it's going to be as good, if not better. And
Right, oh man.
I'm going to try to make the production even better again. We're gonna, I think that our live stream was good, but we're going to make it even better. We're going to have multiple cameras. We're going to really
Okay,
try to step it up because we more than doubled the amount of pay-per-views we sold this time.
nice, good.
So now we know the demand is there, and we had people who we heard didn't even have any of their fighters fighting on it, or we just wanted to buy it. So now
Right on.
we're going to really try to I'm actually going to lower the price of it and add more to it and make it better. So
Man of the people,
yeah. Well, you got to build that brand properly.
for sure. Yeah, I totally agree. Just out of curiosity, I'm talking about yourself here. How many fights have you had, and which one was your favorite?
My amateur record was 27-3.
Damn, son.
My professional record, and that was only my whole career was from January 2011 till July 2016.
No way.
Oh yeah,
Stepping
six and
on
a
the
half.
gas.
Yeah. So I had or 2017, so 6.5 years. It's 27-3 as an amateur. I was 4-1 as a pro, and I had about 10 in-house fights.
Wow. There you go,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Well,
Nice.
back when I started, it was actually it was illegal to sanction Muay Thai fights in Ontario.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we would go around gyms in Toronto and have in-house fights, and they were fights. They were real fights.
Well, how come those are
And
allowed?
wow, because they didn't know about
That's what I assumed the answer was, but
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy, man. Talking about like 1990s, blood sports style. Silly,
Yeah.
man.
Well,
Silly.
it's funny because back then you could sanction in Quebec. You could sanction Muay Thai. So I'd fight at the casino in Hull across because we're right beside Quebec, right?
Right.
So, I live in Quebec. So, but
No
it's
way.
so we'd go to the casino in Hull. We'd fight there 2 or 3 times a year. OAM would put on a show there, but that would be it. And then once they legalized it in Ontario, then Quebec they had a bunch of promoters call the cops on each other, and then it became illegal there. So now
Uh,
you can only do kickboxing in Quebec, but in Ontario you can do Muay Thai.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Weird. Weird. Is it like it probably is everywhere, but does that kind of stuff sabotage happen a lot out there? I mean, it happens everywhere, really, but
It kind of happens everywhere.
yeah, yeah.
I think right now in Ottawa, we have a pretty good thing going, Muay Thai. I mean,
Nice.
the three main promotions I would say is like, Art of War, which is by Ottawa Fight and Fitness.
Yep.
And then Live at Lansdowne, which is Crew Jeff Harrison
Okay.
and Fight Factory. And then us for just Muay Thai, and everyone, Gracie Baja do a little too, but everyone we kind of all support each other. We all, there's a couple little feuds here and there, but from my perspective, we get along with everyone. We try to put guys in all the other cards. Same with Jeff. So
So there's
right now,
four different promoters out of Ottawa?
yeah. Well,
That's
there's three.
awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and then you got Yuki and Boss, which is in
Right.
Kempville, and then you have Renfrew as well. So there's a decent amount of and everyone, we kind of communicate with each other and try not to step each other's toes when we run events and stuff, right? But yeah, man, and then that's and then there's kickboxing with Wacko as well. So there's kickboxing promotions too, right? And and then that goes in Quebec as well. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, man. I've said it many times, but coming out of COVID, man, East Canada, like I can't keep up. There's multiple events every Saturday. Like it's crazy.
Dude, it's crazy. I mean, the
Yep.
opportunity people have compared to when I was fighting, and
Right.
like for my time, I got a lot of fights in. But I'd go to New York, I'd go to the TBAs, I'd go.
Calgary.
I did an 8-man tournament in Calgary, and then one in New York City 4 weeks after. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a little. I mean, now it's great. I mean, we can fight every every month
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah. 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 It's crazy, man. It's awesome. What's what would you let's call it capital punishment 97. What would you like to see this? If it's in your dream, what would it turn into?
I mean, I'd want a top level pro Muay Thai show.
Yeah.
Same production, same, you know what I mean? Even better, you know what I mean? Man, I mean, I would love to have, like, well, one of the big stadiums full, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Around, obviously, but for me, honestly, I just want I would, one of my things is I wouldn't mind, I think the stream route's a pretty good one to take,
Yeah.
especially if you have like, because I do like the feel of a smaller venue.
Yes, me too.
But I definitely would want to have high level pro fights eventually. I mean, that's kind of, and that's kind of, what I think. It's why I put on a pro level, a pro production show. I try to make it as seamless and as good as possible. But I mean, for me, what I'd like more than anything to have a full high level pro card with,
nice.
With fighters from all over the world,
there
ideally, right?
That was the answer I was looking for.
Yeah. But that's why I try to bring in Americans. I mean, for the first one, I tried to bring in some Mexicans, some Australians, but the visas got denied all of them.
Yeah,
so it's a little tricky to get into Canada. So.
Yeah, and only getting trickier, I hear.
Yeah,
exactly. For sure, man. Oh man, I can't. Okay, that's gonna. All right, so you're done. No more. That's it. Fighting's over for you.
Oh, we'll see. I mean, listen, I can't say. Listen, I'm 35. Okay. I can still keep up with the young guys. I think, my body, I've taken a lot of time to really heal my injuries. I mean, I had a bad shoulder and it hasn't bothered me in a year. I still spar, I still hit pads.
Nice.
I'm at the same weight I was when I was fighting as far as my walk around. I would, I wouldn't mind getting in there a couple more times.
Okay.
Especially, I think that between 35 and 40 is really when you kind of lose a step, as far as like your reflexes and I feel like right now I haven't lost a step yet. I think I'm faster. I think I hit just as hard,
Wow.
And this is obviously, you're biased, but I have good teammates, good coaches, and I ask their honest opinion, and, they kind of think they're on the same page as I am. So I'm not saying for sure, but I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to getting back in there, a couple more times.
Okay. What weight do you think you'd be fighting at?
Well, if it was the same day, 55, if it was the day before, I could probably still do 47, 147. Okay. Yeah.
I'm not picking fights or nothing, but
oh no.
But I know a guy who retired and is kind of in the same, like, hey man, I might want to have another go here. And that's Kyle Messenger.
Oh really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Kyle Messenger.
There you go. I'm just saying.
I think you fought one of my guys.
Oh really?
I think you fought Cody Lasker, I think.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Muay Thai World Cup, right?
Yeah. See, shout out to Cody, man. He still comes and trains. He still trains about twice a week.
Oh, is that right? Eh?
He talks about coming back once in a while, but we still keep him engaged. He's
nice.
for sure.
All right.
But well.
Listen.
Maybe I'll reach out.
You guys are similar spots, kind of similar. Yeah, I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? I wouldn't want to come back and go up against an up and comer 20-year-old.
Sure. Of course.
Again, I'm 35. Yeah, and I haven't. My last fight was in 2017. So it's so it's a little while ago.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, for those listening and watching, I before we push record, I did say, listen, man, I'm not trying to pick fights, do any of that shit. And then I go ahead and do that.
Yeah, it's okay. That's fine. I don't mind.
Well, and you're good, dude. It's for the right reasons, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, man. Hey, listen, I won't take up too much more of your time here, but I do have a couple questions.
Yeah,
first, who is your top 3 favorite fighters of all time and why?
I mean, my original favorite was Yodson Clive Fairtex.
Yes, preach.
Big left kick, that was kind of what I tried to fight like, minus his good boxing, I guess. Yeah. And then, like current now, I'd say, Tawan Chai is, again, I'm all about the southpaws, and, but as far as if you want, so I got Tawan Chai, new generation, obviously, Yodson quite old. Now, as far as someone who I admire because of their work ethic and maybe wasn't the most, technically gifted, but most mentally strong, probably Pechbuchu.
Right? Oh, damn. There you go, man. Most decorated Muay Thai fighter of all time.
Yeah. But, he didn't have the best hands. He didn't have the best kicks, and he never was winning the first, even in the clinch in the first round, but, he always got back up quick and wore people down. Right. And that's kind of what's admirable, but, a guy with that style.
Yeah, for sure. So number 1, Yodson Clive Fairtex. Number 2, Tawan Chai. Number 3, Pet Bunchu.
Yeah, and he's the only
Nice.
non-southpaw, right?
That's right. That's a good list, man.
No,
Solid list.
I could go and say Sancho, one of the best,
Yeah, Samar
right?
Payaparun. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
That's no fun.
no,
Yeah,
exactly.
I hear you. I hear you. Who it doesn't have to be three, but who do we got to watch out for in your camp? Who we keeping our eyes on for the future of Muay Thai in Canada here?
Well,
If not the current.
Maddox Bowker for sure.
Yeah.
He's a talent.
Why? What is it? What is it?
Well, I got him when he was 12, first of all.
Okay.
So, and I was his only coach. I think, there's something, I only had one coach. I think there's something to someone, assuming your coach is good, right?
Do you hear that, fighters? Do you hear that?
Yeah, dude. You bounce around, man. It's not easy for, it's always, you always got different habits, different coaching styles. It's always hard to get people who are somewhere else first, right?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, man. Before we continue on, I did also want to say, let me speak for myself as a coach. If I think that if you are bouncing around, it's also just like I'm not going to invest my time either because I know you're going to bounce. It's you hate to say that, but if you do that and then you want to come to my gym, it's like, yeah, I know what's going to happen. Like I'm not going to invest the time.
Yeah,
properly.
The thing is, I've had a couple, and I'm not going to mention names. Most people know them, and let me tell you, I put the ones who stuck around or still with me. I put them through the ringer, worse than anyone, and I will say I tried to make them quit.
Nice.
And if they don't, I don't go and smash their head.
But I know what you mean.
But I try to make them quit, and if they don't, then and they're respectful, then and I'm always hard on them, always. Until they become part of the team, right?
Yeah.
But so I got Maddox, obviously. He's super talented. Just got a good feel, good eye. He's really good all around. He's a little lazy sometimes, but you got to be hard on him, and that's kind of part of being a coach.
Yep.
And another up and comer is Owen. Oh, my guy Owen, as you saw.
Yeah, he fought down there, right?
That guy's an animal. Yeah.
Ball of energy, that fella.
Oh yeah. So he's same thing, man. He's a farmer. He's an old school farmer. And he is real strong. Hits real hard. He loves to fight, and he's also
sounds like a farmer.
Yeah, and he's. I think he's going to be doing. He's going to be doing big things in the next couple of years for sure.
Nice, right on, man. If you could give one shout out only to anybody on the podcast, who is it?
Oh boy! Wow, one shout out to my team at Westside.
Okay. Kind of, I see what you did there. I guess I'll take it.
You better take it. Hey, we're a team, man. This doesn't run without the rest of them.
Nice. There you go. What's next for the team? Is there fights coming up? Obviously, Thailand coming up. What's on the schedule?
But we got 4 guys fighting this weekend, actually.
Where's that?
In Oakville. Represent. Ramel's
Ramel. Yeah, shout out to Ramel. Love him.
Yeah, so actually Owen's stepped back in there.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah. Owen's stepped. Yeah, the goal for Owen is so he's going to be A class by our show in November.
Okay, so cool. Right on, man.
Yeah. And then we got Owen. We got Adele's fighting main event.
I'm sorry. So one more time. Got a little glitchy there. One more time.
Adele's fighting main event for a promotion belt. Yeah. And then we got Kira and Hassan, 2 greener of my guys. So. Nice. So we're going down tomorrow evening. Fights are Saturday, and then
there you go. Are you guys going to the TBAs this year?
The next one after that, I don't know, because we have the CMTOs now in Ontario and Kitchener, right. So it's kind of and there's a lot of fighters. I do like the TBAs; it's a good time, but and the States is expensive now.
Yeah, no kidding.
So
yep.
So and we fight so often. I think this year we're going to do the CMTOs in Kitchener. And then maybe next year we'll make a trip back down to the TBAs.
Nice. Well, and good for you to help trying to build the Canadian scene as well. That good on you.
Yeah, well, Daryl there from Dark Side, yep. He does a really good job, and he puts a lot into it. You know what I mean? So yep. We always like supporting the local teams. You know what I mean? And promoters.
It's great, man. Good on you. All right, man. Anything else before we're out of here?
I don't think so, man. I think we covered most of everything.
Yeah, that's it, man. Yeah, hour goes by quick when you're chatting fun. Have fun stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Well, before we're out of here, I want to thank you once again for trusting me, bringing the voice to the crowd. I tell people all the time when I'm commentating, I'm a fight fan before I'm a commentator, so you have to forgive me if I freak out. But it's I just love being part of it, and I thank you for including me in that.
Yeah, man. Well, we'll be bringing you back November 1st. So,
Yeah.
I think you and Jasper did a great job. Had a good chemistry. As I said, me and my media guy son, we look. The next day we bought the pay-per-view and we watched it, and I was really happy how it went. Everyone said good things. So
Nice.
I'd love to have both you guys back in there November 1st. And
Beauty.
he's around, and I'll fly you back down, and that'll be another great show.
Consider it done, sir.
Awesome, man. Good to hear.
All right, man. Again, someone I've known forever, only got to know over the past couple of weeks. I really appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, sir. Have yourself a good day.
Yeah, you as well.
Talk
Goodbye.
soon.